Welcome to the Supreme Love Project, where you learn to love supremely so you can live supremely. This is a Power Hour. This is the place where you can get the information you need to heal the terrors in your soul and launch a revolution in your life. Get ready. Take notes. Now, here's your host, Janine Staples.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Supreme Love Project. We are in the midst of Cold Crush, and we are talking today to David Essel. Did I pronounce your name correctly, David?
Yes, you did, Janine. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, we're talking about Cold Crush. We're talking about what causes a woman's soul to turn to ice, how we create boundaries, parameters, contingencies, blocks, that keep distance in effect in our relationships, whether it's in life or in love. It's the coldness and the iciness that we want to focus on right now. It's what shuts us down, what causes us to recede and retreat into basically a tundra, so that we're frozen in time, frozen in space. We want to crush that cold today. So we're welcoming these experts from all over the world to give us some great perspectives, some interesting advice, some novel ideas, some cool questions to ask yourself to really start to melt some of that frigid, extremely alienating behaviors and languages and choices that we're making that will keep us away from the supreme love and the supreme life that we really want to lead. So, David, welcome to Cold Crush. Welcome to the Supreme Love Project. I'm very glad to have you on. I'd like to take just a few minutes, if you could, to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and then I'd like to dive into your three main points around Cold Crush.
Yeah, first, Janine, this topic is so crucial. We see so many women and men, but we see so many women with broken hearts putting up walls that are like fortresses. So I can't wait to get into this and go deep, really deep with it. Oh my gosh, 30 years now, Janine. I've been in this industry 30 years, and I have loved every second of it. I think my desire, my passion for, being a counselor and a coach and an author and a radio TV host and all this stuff I do has grown over the years. Like, there's never a feeling that I'm done with this and I need to move on. It just gets so much more exciting because we learn so much more.
Absolutely.
If we're open to the teachers around us, some much younger, some much older, some much heavier, some much thinner, there's all kinds of teachers around us. And if we're learning and constantly grasping this information, it stays exciting. But I started out in the world of health and fitness and sports psychology. My first 5 years, I was working with athletes and with their mind, and I was working with people in the world of health and fitness. In 1990, I transferred over to what we call the general population and started working with everything. I mean, some really intense experiences like helping people overcome incest and rape, to helping people build multi-million-dollar businesses, to helping people shift their attitude, recover from addictions. And here I am today with you, exploring one of the most important topics of all, and that's love.
Yes, absolutely. This is an amazing experience to have you on, to have your wealth of experience, your great track record, and your really broad perspective on what's integrated. One of the things we talk about in the Supreme Love Project is how important it is to develop a lover identity that's based in supreme principles, that has an ethereal anchor, so that we can ascend and descend in equal measure. That means go to the highest heights of our being and our person, and then go to the deepest depths. We need that agility. We need that perspective, and we need that broad repertoire of skills. So I just want to talk a little bit about that coldness. So what do you think about what it is that causes those fortresses to get built around our heart, that iciness and that coldness, and what can we do to start to melt some of those walls?
Janine, as you were talking about going into the depths, I started getting chills. I really do believe that this is the key to success in life. It's not what we've been told. It's not what we've been taught about the fantasy, the illusions of the power of thinking and the power of positive thinking, and, that the fairy tales of love that you still read in those freaking love novels out there and everything else. And, in our belief system, the false concept of one soulmate in this world, we totally think that's pure illusion. But what do we want? What do we want to do when we have a broken heart? For people online right now that have been their jilted lovers, they've been cheated on, they've been left, or maybe their last relationship left them so cold that they're on here out of curiosity, but they really don't think love is possible for them. You know, even that doubt builds a huge wall around us. So we think number one, without a doubt, is that we have to get our clients, our friends, our family members to dive in and express what emotions they're feeling regarding the loss. Now, we know this, is that when a woman is angry, she's called a bitch. When a man is angry, he's called an angry man. Now, right there, we can understand why little girls are told not to go into the quote-unquote negative feelings of life, right? It's not ladylike. It's not nice. That's not what a proper woman does. And yet we say if you want to get out of a broken heart and get rid of this wall that we build around ourselves, we believe we actually, Janine, have to go in and have our clients in writing express their rage, their loss, their sadness, their depression, their anxiety over being single. You know, so many women say, at this age, I never thought I'd be single. Or so many other women will say, at this age, I never thought I'd still be in a crappy relationship. So first, let's dive in and let's express on paper all of those emotions that I'm talking about. Maybe the shame. You know, I feel ashamed that I'm 40 or 50 or 60 on my own. I feel guilty that I've stayed in this relationship when I haven't loved them for 25 years.
Wow.
So we believe that the very first step is to express all of these emotions in writing so that we can start to become free. And you know, and it's in that acceptance, in that surrender, and that acknowledgement, I can't believe I'm this angry. I can't believe I'm so jaded that I say all men are dogs and all they want me for is sex and all they want. I can't believe that I'm surrounding myself with other women that constantly complain like I do about men. Let me wake up and let me be honest about my groundswell around negativity and love. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to just pause right here and just jump in because I think this is a major, major idea to connect with, especially for members of the Supreme Love Project and for the new members who are coming in from all over the world. When women are interested in going to get a partnership, and the Supreme Love Project, by the way, is not only about intimate partner relationships or romantic love. When I talk about supreme love, I'm talking about being a lover and embodying a lover identity that allows a woman or a man actually to connect with any person that they want to on a deeper, more profound level. That could be your supervisor at work. It could be your children. It could be your parent. It could be your sibling that you haven't talked to in 5 years, or it could be an intimate partner. But what you're talking about, David, makes so much sense. When we create a community of negativity, that does cause our coldness to calcify. When we have this rhetoric of pain and doubt, of fear, of frustration, that is when the ice starts to build.
Oh my gosh, it does. And you know, thinking of that ice building, the analogy that we gave came to mind, Janine, and it's like when women gain weight after a breakup, and it could be, as you're saying, you know, they lose the relationship with their mother. You know, they have an estranged relationship with their mother or father, even as adults, or a sister or brother, or a lover. And all of a sudden they start to gain weight. From an intimacy point of view, we know that that's keeping people at bay. They don't, you know, and they're eating their emotions. That's really basically what's going down here. Instead of dealing with the emotions that we talked about, the sadness, the loss, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the rage, the resentment, whatever it might be, instead of dealing with them, we don't go deep. And so we stay surface. And guess what? When we stay surface, so does our surface expand. And 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. This is a huge problem in our community, but if only 6% of people who are obese or overweight, this is a University of Florida study, only 6% of people who are obese or overweight have any tie-in with genetics. That means 94% do not have any tie-in. And one of the fastest ways that women deal or don't deal with their hurt, their shame, their resentment, the anger is through food. So we want to say, like pull back, observe your life, Are you surrounding yourself with other negative Nellies that are constantly complaining about men or their mothers or their fathers or their sisters or brothers? Right there, red flag number one, Janine, right?
There you go.
Red flag number one. Are you attracted to the reality shows that are filled with drama and negativity and passive-aggressive behavior and revenge? Red flag number two.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of the things I'm hearing from you, David, and I want to reflect what you're saying for our listeners who are calling in from all over. Coldness comes from community. Coldness comes from community. So when we create these networks of oppression and we live in them and we call them necessary, like we need the girlfriends who are embittered, we need that relationship with our mother to stay the same because it's familiar, and we're not recognizing the negative impact that kind of cold culture has on the agility of our soul to sort of bounce back from despair, bounce back from heartache, then we're actually doing ourselves a disservice. And I also want to pause here just to make sure that the women who are on the call or gentlemen who are on the call or other people who self-identify differently are on the call. This is not about badgering anyone and saying you need to do X, Y, and Z or it's your fault that you are experiencing this stress of isolation, of loneliness, of fear, of freezing, so that you're not able to move out. What David and I are talking about, and what I think I'll ask you to, of course, to speak for yourself, David, is that if you are at the bottom of a barrel and you have built an ice world around yourself, the only person who can really melt that space is you. And so this is not about badgering anyone, but this is really about helping all of us to understand what it is we need to do to take responsibility for the love lives that we want to have as lovers of many, like David said, parents, children, siblings, colleagues, your intimate partner, your future partner, and most importantly, yourself.
Yeah, we look at a principle that a lot of people don't like, but when you're at the bottom, as you say, and you're listening to a conference that Janine and I are having, or anyone else that would have this type of topic, and someone on the conference says something that you don't want to hear, that is often the truth.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I will tell you, I've been in recovery for a number of years. I struggled with cocaine and alcohol intensely for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And it was the people that were talking about addictions back in those days that I would say, oh, God, they're talking about someone else. I do it because I deserve it, because I'm a successful man, because this is what successful men do. Why? Because I was surrounded by other successful men who were addicts. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. So when someone came out with a truthful statement like you and I are talking about, that if you want to get, you want to heal, you want to warm your heart up, you've got to go through your denial, through your justification, through your rationalization, through your little coffee meetings where everyone bitches about the same stuff over and over again. When I'm saying that we've got to go into the depth of that and that doesn't feel comfortable, then that should be a sign that, oh my gosh, maybe I need to listen to him or her, whoever's saying things that make us uncomfortable. Janine, can I share a story about a former client with her mom?
Yes, please.
Okay, so to take this cold heart into the family structure, a woman came to me a number of years ago, and she had just a constant struggle with men, had married several times, abusive men that beat her. She got out of those marriages, had multiple children, was outrageously talented in this gift that she was given to make money, and yet she was strapped constantly, getting kicked out of homes, running behind on rent, and she was making a ton of money. So when she came into the office, one of the first things that I asked her, I shouldn't say one of the first things, after a couple sessions, I said, tell me about your relationship with your mom. I'm just curious. Mm-hmm. From grade school on, her mom had reflected, I believe, out of parent envy, parent jealousy, but had reflected that her daughter was stupid, was dumb, couldn't figure out the simplest of math. She beat this into her head so much that the girl dropped out of high school. Okay. And when the girl dropped out of high school and in her 20s was making $150,000 a year without a high school education, her mom came back into the scene and said, you don't know anything about money. I'm going to do your taxes. I'm going to handle your banking. Okay, her mom is incredibly jaded about men, hates men, and has passed on all of this lineage of education to her daughter. Now, her daughter's in her 40s, and at any point in time could change, but as of right now even has chosen not to, because she's never gone into the emotions, the rage that she holds against mom, the resentment, and then she's filled with shame and guilt to think that she has to put boundaries with her mom.
Yeah.
But, you know, and we write her story in our new best-selling book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life. We tell her story. The story does not have a happy ending as of today. Okay? But the only reason it doesn't have a happy ending is because she has chosen to not do the work necessary to shift and shatter. And that's the power of codependency and enmeshment.
Yes.
It's tough. It's tough to warm that heart when you allow yourself to stay stuck in relationships that keep it whole.
And David, listen, you are talking to a recovering codependent. I talk about that in the Supreme Love Project with the community that I'm in. I mean, you're in recovery from coke and alcohol. I'm in recovery from codependency. And these addictions are very similar. There's no hierarchy in oppression. Audre Lorde said that. There is no hierarchy in oppression.
No.
And so this is a powerful story, and it's a powerful thing to hear that it's not necessarily better right now, because the person who is at the center of the story, who's actually running the show, who may imagine herself as disempowered because of the ice storm that she's living in, is not in touch with her ability to change and alter her situation, unwilling to go into the center of that storm and get connected to the rage, get connected to the shame, get connected to the practice that one is called upon to create healthy boundaries and to, as I say as a lyricist, to write yourself into the world. A lot of times the people who are listening to us right now, David, are mainly people who are struggling to be visible, to be relevant, to understand exactly who they are, not in ways that are passed down from our parents or our siblings or our friends or even from our careers that sort of label us and give us an identity, but from an organic, self-sustained space where we actually come to know ourselves. The fear of knowing what's at our roots is really palpable. It's really palpable.
Oh my gosh! You know, if we are carrying on these patterns, you know, we look at a pattern as anything that's brought forward that is not for your highest good. If we're bringing through a pattern for 2 years or 10 years, or many of us 30 and 40 years, in regards to love and coldness, you know, that pattern, what you said earlier, that pattern cannot be shattered by anyone. It cannot be warmed. You know, the person has to be willing to walk into that fire, to look and to deal with, express the emotions that they're staying away from. You know, codependency, we believe, as a matter of fact, a brand new book we're finishing right now on codependency, Janine, we believe, and we prove it in the book, that without a doubt, it is the largest addiction in the world. Without a doubt. There is not even a question. You know, 33% of Americans struggle with alcohol, 25% struggle with nicotine, 70% obviously struggle with food, but the core of all addiction is codependency.
Codependency. So, it is.
You know?
It is.
And codependency we often think of within relationships, which is huge, but the alcoholic and the smoker and the food addict are all codependent with their substance of choice, just like the gambler, the sex addict, the emotional spender, et cetera, right?
Yep. And you know what's interesting about that, David, I just want to jump in again there and respond to what you're saying. Some of the women who are listening to us today or are part of the Supreme Love Project are like the client that you just talked about in your work and who are very successful and who have a lot of accoutrement. And one might say, well, where's her addiction? She's got a great job. She's making plenty of money. She's got a cool car. You know, and so sometimes people, you know, we miss it. That's another way to sort of point the finger outwards and say, well, I don't have any problems. I'm not addicted to alcohol. I'm not addicted to drugs. I was not addicted to any substance. I was not, when I was at the height of codependency, I wasn't. Had a stellar career, still do, lots of global success, and I'm living the dream. And yet, behind closed doors, in my heart of hearts, in the deepest recesses of my soul, I was sick. And the codependency that a lot of people suffer with does show up, like the 70% are addicted to food, 20% are addicted to controlled substances, But sometimes it doesn't show up that way. Sometimes it shows up in this freezing, this space of isolation, of uncertainty, of insecurity, that pattern that people have. So I want to talk to you about explicitly these 3 points that we can share with the community. And they might be 3 points. I know you have a wealth of information. This might be difficult to narrow down. But as I'm looking for 3 points of sort of how we can break through the cold, or how we can recognize and become clearer about our actual coldness, what happens with our freezing, what can you tell us to help us to get 3 takeaways so that we're clear about how to heal?
Let me go through each really quickly, and I'll come back. The first one we spent quite a bit of time on, and that's to express our loss, to express our broken heart. That's in writing, ladies and gentlemen. That's in writing. That's putting down the shame and the guilt and the anger and the rage and the resentment and all those emotions that we don't want to deal with when it comes to why it is that we become so frigid in friendships or family, so isolated, as Janine said, or so jaded. You know, we want to really look and feel that. The second key that we haven't expressed, and this is one of the most difficult, is once you've done the first and you've expressed all these emotions that you have maybe been afraid to deal with or to face or to admit, the second one that's so crucial is to write about your specific role that has created the coldness. You know, our fear, let's say codependency, you know, our fear of being rejected by others so we're not honest. Our fear of being abandoned so we're not honest. Our fear of being judged so we're not honest. Like what's our role? If people listening truly know what codependency is, and you say, as a matter of fact, as my former client that still hasn't broken through said, you know, that she was dependent upon her mom. She was so dependent for her taxes and her bookkeeping and her banking statements and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, but she wanted to keep blaming her mom and say, you know, my mom is this and I said, what is your role in this? Because any pattern cannot be carried forward unless you are an active participant. You know, like
that's right.
So
that's right.
So if you're an active participant, are you choosing men that are emotionally abusive or physically abusive, or women who are emotionally abusive? Or are you choosing a pattern? That's our role, and we need to get very open and look with our eyes wide open.
Yes.
This is my role that's created dysfunction with my family, ongoing dysfunction with friends, ongoing dysfunction at work, ongoing dysfunction with lovers. Like, Janine, if there's, you know, all these 3 keys I'm going to talk about are crucial, but this one is massive.
Yeah. Huge.
What is my role?
Huge. Yeah.
What is my role? It takes someone who's outrageously humble or willing to learn how to be humble and vulnerable. And I'm also going to say this, Janine. In my personal major breakthroughs with addiction recovery and relationship addictions and all these different things I've had, I don't care how damn smart I am. Ask my mom. She thinks I'm brilliant. But I don't care how smart I am or how much experience I have never broken through any major challenge in my life by myself, Janine. I have never broken through. So you need a team. Everyone listening today, you need professionals.
Yes.
You need to commit time, effort, and money. You're not going to do this alone because you know why? Here's the answer. If you could have done it alone, you already would have.
That's right. That's right. And this is, I want to say like 2 things in response to what you're saying. 3. I'm going to say something about each of your 3 points, David, and they are fantastic. So point 1 is write it out. You can write your way out of your cold. You can. Writing, the process of taking hand to paper, and I think that's what you mean, David. We're not talking about typing on a keyboard, right?
No, paper. Thank you.
Paper. I just wanted to be clear that we're both on the same page. It's paper. Get your pencil, get your pen, go old school. Get a journal, get a scrapbook, write it out. When we write out, there's something about the mechanical process of using your body as an instrument and connecting with another tangible thing and writing out your grief, your pain point. You can actually come to step 2. which is the step one that David is talking about is the breakthrough. Step two is admitting your role, being brave enough to uncover your part. And David, this is so key, and you and I both know this. When a woman, let's say a woman is being physically abused, and she has been physically abused and she's gotten out of it and she's been single and not dated for 5 years because she hates men. All men are the same. She's got that rhetoric of abuse. She's got that coldness that's built in community. It's very difficult to say to a person who's been physically abused or narcissistically abused, what is your role? What was your role? What was your part? Because when a person has that kind of evidence for a physical or emotional or psychological trauma, all they know how to do usually is point the finger out and say, no, not me, not me, not me. It's them, 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 them. It's him, it's her. It's her, it's him. See, this is the thing. Even if you were punched in the face 20 times by your partner so that you were bloody, black, and blue, and you stayed in the house that night, guess what? You're a participant.
Amen to that.
You're not only a victim, you're a participant. Each time, I had 2 narcissistic relationships. The people in my community know this. I dated 2 men who were narcissistic personality disordered. Each time I went back for more abuse, I was participating. I had to come to a place where I could admit my role in my trauma in order to own my trauma so that it could not overtake me, so that I had jurisdiction. So that's a beautiful point. Thank you for that. And then the third point I'm just reflecting is getting a team. It's building a community and being willing to invest time, effort, and money in your recovery so that you can be whole, so that you can launch this revolution in your life and be healed.
We need so desperately to have people in our lives that are ahead of us, Janine, above us, that are smarter, that are, we really do. And I look at when like people say to me, how can you as a one person, how can you as a one guy do all the things you do? And I say, well, I couldn't. I couldn't. I have the most amazing team. I've got a book publicist, bar none, the best in the world. I have, I've got social media experts. I've got a new team on my website. I've got the best. I could never do this on my own. And when I struggled with my addictions, there's no way I could have beaten them, even though I do addiction recovery work. So, we need people. When we see a pattern and we see jadedness and we see resentments and we see rage, we need a team to get us out. And the other thing that we write about in our new book is that, one of the things in our society, especially in the world of personal growth, Janine, is that people want to do positive affirmations. I am with the man of my dreams, and vision boards with, the guy or the woman of their dreams. And, and it's very filled with nonsense. It's very fairy tale-like. It's very illusion-like, and so we say be really careful until you've done the first several steps that you and I have talked about. Don't go into this, I am worthy of my soulmate nonsense, affirmations, and vision board stuff. Do the work. Do the work. As a matter of fact, we start out in our chapter 1 telling the story of a woman who came in and she had been to all the soulmate workshops in the world, and, she was doing her vision board and doing her affirmations for 2 or 3 years in a row. Yeah. And finally she woke up one day and goes, this isn't it. This is working, and at the end of the story, we tell how she found her life partner who was, I'll say, encased in a body she didn't anticipate, and it wasn't part of her vision board. Okay. Who is the love of her life? Who is unbelievably the love of her life? So let's, as we heal and we're trying to get out of this cold-heartedness, let's look at some of the illusions of the power of thought and get back into the reality of do the work, and the world will come to you once you've done the work.
That's right. Those cold pillars and fortresses will melt when you do the work, when you go deep. I call it, in the Supreme Love Project, we talk about doing deep excavations of the soul. Deep excavations of the soul. It's about going into your belief systems, going into your survival programs, going into your narrative structures, and finding out who you really are, finding out what you really believe, what you really think. That's what it's about. And then when you can face that part of yourself and heal that hurt, and then replace those old beliefs with something new that you can generate of your own authority and of your own volition, and then act on that new system of beliefs with new narrative structures out in your world, your life, it will get built around you that will be filled with warmth, filled with power, because it will be coming from an organic place, from the inside out. Absolutely.
And you know, Janine, and your listeners and then our listeners today will really go into this depth of self-love because they've created this new life. They will have the appreciation because they've done the work. Do you know, I just heard from a client. Now, I worked with her for a year in 2000. I worked with her for 1 year. And I hadn't heard from her in 16 years, and she just contacted me the other day. And she said, hey, I want to start doing sessions every couple of weeks. You know, I've missed the work. And back then, she was struggling a lot with relationships with men. And so in 16 years, I said, hey, tell me how you're doing. And she said it with the most peaceful voice, Janine. She said, David, I'm 62, and I've just come to the realization in the last 2 years that I am so comfortable loving myself that I'm not going to be engaged in the loving act with a partner. I have a community of yoga people that I hang out with. I have a community of artists. I have these huge communities filled with love, and I just think I'm done with that part of my life.
That's interesting.
Fascinating. Like she said, I felt so much pressure my whole life to be in a relationship, which meant women, oh my God, women are so
yeah.
If you don't have a boyfriend to go out on Friday nights or Saturday, if you don't have a boyfriend to take to the charity, if you don't have a husband I feel bad, I swear, very, very sincerely here, because there's so much pressure. And the coolest thing in the world is that, you know, with all of her internal work, she came to the conclusion that she's really happy alone, and that doesn't mean she's without love. Love comes from her communities that she's created, Janine.
That's right. And it's very possible. It's very possible to actually make that decision, to make that choice for yourself, if that's right for you. There's no right or wrong way to live your life. Now, David, that's a whole nother conversation. Listen, I've done so much work on, it's a concept that I call, and it's a real concept. It's highly researched in my field. It's white supremacist patriarchy. It's an ideological frame that causes racialized and gendered and body politics that are incredibly detrimental to humanity. Women in particular, some of the ways that women are taught that they don't matter, that they're not whole, if they're not partnered, they are so systemic, those messages. They are so deeply entrenched. The socialization that we come up under from birth to adulthood is staggering. It is staggering. And so some of the work we're talking about now in Cold Crash is about taking down some of the walls that we erected, not only because of our romantic relationships that maybe haven't panned out the way we imagined or are struggling with, or our relationships with our parents or our children, our grandparents, our siblings, or our failed businesses or whatever might have you, but some of it is just society, just some of the messagings that we get about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what's meaningful. And so that's all sort of etched in, and it's powerful to hear that story. That the woman came to her own sensibility. And I think that it's true that anybody can have whatever they want, and that includes that conclusion. It includes any number of other conclusions as well.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing I just flew into my head as you're talking is that what we recommend, Janine, when people are going on this deep inner exploration and doing this work, if you're not in a relationship, look at a period of time to give yourself a break, to not think about dating, get off the internet dating sites, get off of Tinder and get off of all this stuff, and just focus on you. If you're not in a relationship, you know, like just spend the 6 months. If you're going to be 82 years of age, my God, give yourself 6 months, take a big breath. Tell your friends you're not interested in getting hooked up anymore. You're not interested in meeting the man of your dreams or woman of your dreams or whatever it might be, and just take the time to explore. And we've seen in our work that after about 6 months of someone taking themselves out of that world who struggled in the world of relationships and done the internal work. Some will take a year, but on average, between 6 months and a year, they'll go back out refreshed. They'll go back out with a high sense of self, self-esteem, self-love, and giving themselves in that mindset a much better chance to attract someone who would be their equal at that point.
Yeah. David, listen, as I tell my community, I've taken 3.5 years and counting. I'm
Good.
just starting to debate going back out there. But listen, I've never been happier. And it's one of the things, I actually don't talk about that too much because the socialization that we get around women in singleness is so petrifying that even when a woman says she's happy, people don't believe her. They imagine that it must be something contrived to save face. And so it's really about doing it for yourself. It's about doing whatever it is that's right for you to get yourself to a space of healing and stability that you can feel complete and total ownership of. But there's nothing like standing inside of yourself with a warmth that permeates from the inside out. Cold Crush is about desolidifying that internal space that causes us to not know who we are, to not know how to connect, to not understand how to let anyone in, to not be well practiced in vulnerability and an expression that can create intimacy. So, David, I just really want to thank you. I could talk to you for another hour, easily for another hour, but we're so fortunate that we have you back for Hot Help. And actually, this is Cold Crush. It's happening after Hot Help, so the people who are listening to you now have already heard you in Hot Help, which is wonderful. And so I'm happy to talk to you again and again and again for future summits. And if there's anything you want to leave our community with, please let us know. We're excited about your free gift, and we'd love to hear your final closing 2 cents.
Oh, yeah. Well, for our free gifts, we're excited, too. For everyone that wants to take their life to a deeper level, we're offering a free 20-minute phone consultation with me, and they can go to talkdavid.com and just through the contact us button, just say that you want it. My office will set up a time for you and I to talk and go deeper. And then also everyone gets the free chapter 1 of our brand new best-selling book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, but this book will, The Myth of Positive Thinking, The Reality of Success. Everyone that goes to talkdavid.com automatically gets chapter 1 for free, so you can see our philosophy and how all the powerful writers we have as part of that book. I believe, going back just to a really quick replay, number 1 is that we all deserve that inner peace that we seek. We deserve the love. So start there. Like you do deserve it. It isn't something that some people genetically have a better opportunity for. You may have belief systems that you have to release from childhood, belief systems that have been implanted into the subconscious about how worthy you are, how pretty you are, how handsome you are, whatever that might be. But number 1 is that you're worthy. If you want deep love, you're worthy. Number 2 is you've got to get off your butt and do some deep explorative work. Janine said it so perfectly before, hand to pen or paper, pencil and paper, put it in writing. Number 3, create a community of loving people around you who are either equal or above you in regards to their understanding of self and connection and relationships, and just keep moving because you are worth it.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much, David. This has been a wonderful conversation. You're a fantastic interview, and I am looking forward to talking to you again at another episode of the Supreme Love Project. Thank you.
Oh, Janine, I loved it. Just a blast being with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. See you on the next episode.
Thank you for participating in the Supreme Love Project. We're a division of Literacy for Life, LLC. Please visit thesupremeloveproject.com for more information about our products and services. Visit JanineStaples.com for more information about our beloved founder and president. And remember, take this message to heart and build it into your body. We'll see you next time, right here. The place to make love, not war, every day of your life.